Hey guys, today we're looking at Wolverine and the I said Wolverine and the X-Men. Oh, that's crazy. No, today we're looking at X-Men 97. I like that I said Wolverine and the X-Men because over the years the X-Men have been like very Wolverine focused, and now with this last episode they're adding layers to Wolverine. The Apocalypse episode was really good. I'm looking to see where they take it. Like they had a mini break and focused on Wolverine as a character. Um, but let's see how far they take this Apocalypse episode. But yeah, let's analyze this Wolverine episode. I'm just getting ready.
A Wolverine problem. During season 1 of X-Men 97, after 2 decades of just about all of the X-Men being sidelined for Wolverine, it was refreshing for the reverse to happen, for Wolverine to be sidelined in favor of the rest of the X-Men, especially Cyclops. However, with season 2, I did kind of find myself wanting Wolverine to get some spotlight. I mean, there is a reason that he was the one who was always given focus in the movies, and the reason why he's the most popular X-Men, he is the most compelling member. So I was excited for this episode, Season 2, Episode 5, Weapon X, Lies, and DVDs, to finally give Wolverine some spotlight. However, this episode was quite disappointing. Not only did it not really give Wolverine very much spotlight at all, but I think it really solidified how, as good of an adaptation as this is for the X-Men and the rest of their members and their rogues galleries and stories, I just don't think this is a very good adaptation of Wolverine. Last episode ended with a tease for this episode that felt a bit out of place for the season. I thought I'd wait for this episode to see if that remains the case, which is why I didn't bring it up last week. And yeah, considering the time travel, apocalypse focused shenanigans, and the fact that the X-Men literally all just reunited in the present, to divert to this side mission with just Wolverine and Morph feels a bit out of place. We meet Team X, including Sabretooth, Lady Deathstrike, Maverick, and Garrison Kane. Unfortunately, I actually found Maverick and Kane to be the most entertaining characters off the bat. Unfortunate because Kane instantly dies.
Yeah, I never really knew who Kane was and Maverick, so that was pretty cool. These guys had to do a bit of history. I had to like relearn them as well.
And Maverick barely gets any focus. Meanwhile, they don't really do much, if anything, with the rivalry between Wolverine and Sabretooth, and Lady Deathstrike isn't all that interesting either. The way Kane dies is pretty brutal, and honestly, I am a bit shocked how gruesome this show can be, considering it's a sequel to a kids show. Then again, literally all of the kids who watched that show in the 90s are now
I don't know if it's a sequel to a kids show. I mean, it's kind of I would say it's nostalgia for the people who watched the show in the 90s, right? So it's no longer a kids show, right? Like they deal with being gay, they deal with Rogue and Magneto's relationship, Rogue and Gambit's relationship, the love triangle between Wolverine, Madison Pryor, Jean, and then Cyclops, right? So it's a bit the complications between Professor X and Magneto, and then his girlfriend couldn't leave his X-Men, and so on and so on.
grown adults, so it does make sense, it fits well, and it works within the story. From the moment the helicopter crashes, it becomes clear that it's actually not Wolverine who is getting focused, it's Morph. This is more so a Morph episode.
Good point. I thought it was a Morph episode too. Like we got to see Morph do like really cool transformations. He brought back a lot of nostalgia transformations. I was like, okay, who's this guy? Who's that guy? So on, right? So that's one thing.
than anything, and that was a pretty strange decision. This was the perfect opportunity to finally give Wolverine his long-due focus, but they completely threw that idea out the window and instead focus on Morph, who doesn't have any connection to any of these other characters, nor does he have a connection to Weapon X. He's mostly a cameo machine, which is fun, but the decision to focus on Morph here does not make any sense to me. This episode has a relatively decent Weapon X-centered mystery that begins with showcasing
I thought it made sense. I thought it was pretty cool. It's the relationship dynamics between Morph and Wolverine.
of these monster birds and monster polar bear, and the mystery surrounding all of it is kind of interesting, but not really that much. They more so went for a horror vibe rather than a mystery vibe, but the issue with that is that I just didn't find it to be that scary or worrying for any of these characters, especially since I don't really like any of these characters all that much anyway. The horror vibe also makes this episode darker visually, which maybe makes it so that this is the least good-looking episode of X-Men 97. Although, as good as this show is, it's still pretty damn good-looking, and it may be one of those episodes where they spent less time on it in order to make it so that they could spend more time on other episodes, which is perfectly fine by me. As they walk through the facility and are attacked by the Brood, it's here that we essentially depart from Wolverine to focus on Morph. This episode definitely makes Morph more likable, as his later disappointment in Logan is interesting, but I guess I was simply not able to get past my disappointment at Wolverine's lack of screen time. Morph, Sabretooth, and Lady Deathstrike find all of these DVDs, which is an absolute treasure trove of world building, including characters who didn't exist yet in the 90s. There are characters who appeared in this episode like Sabretooth, Garrison Kane, and Agent Zero, who is Maverick. There are characters who appeared in this world before, like Aurora, a member of Alpha Flight, and Silver Fox, a former member of Team X, and new characters, like Ajax, who you might know from Deadpool, Phantom X, Cyborg, Mastodon, Weapon VI, Ant, Chimera, Worm, Sluggo, Kestrel, and the two really interesting ones, X-23.
Yeah, the thing about this episode, it was like a lot of layers. There was so much stuff thrown at you. All of Morph's transformations were like cameos. He transformed into like Deadpool. He transformed into a Spider-Man at one point. Like, yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot.
And the Winter Soldier. Neither of these characters existed in the 90s, and in fact, X-23 was created for the original series' animated successor, X-Men Evolution, in 2003, while Bucky didn't return to the comics as the Winter Soldier until 2005, and this is really cool. I like the idea that this series looks beyond the timeline of the original series and adapts characters who never existed in a 90s setting. There's also Maggot in the video, and if we are speaking already of world building, in this episode, Morph turns into The Thing, Guardian, Deadpool, Silver Samurai, and Spider-Man, which was all pretty fun, especially Spider-Man. We learn that these scientists experimented on the Brood, which sets up the further horror, as, well, first of all, we bump into Omega Red, who, quite frankly, came out of nowhere, but then the idea becomes clear. The reason they didn't want to focus on Wolverine was because they wanted to turn him into a horror monster. I get the idea, and this design is really, really cool, but I just think Wolverine was kind of desperately in need of some development, and while this idea is cool and it's a unique concept, it simply did not help with the Wolverine problem. He's also not that scary, and the fight scenes are pretty good but nothing special. Maverick is unfortunately killed off, and we learn that the real reason Wolverine came here was to get adamantium back, which definitely makes him come off as pretty awful considering this whole thing got like a bunch of people killed. This didn't help me like this Wolverine more. I get that Wolverine is more of an anti-hero and maybe not the most morally sound superhero, but I really don't think this is something he'd do. Why would he lie to his team about why they came here, putting them all into these deadly situations over false pretenses, and for pretty selfish reasons? He doesn't really need the adamantium, he could survive without it, so doing all of this, it makes Wolverine feel very unheroic. Like, is he even a good guy? The moment of Morph turning into Cyclops was pretty funny, but I am just so over the Jean Grey stuff. This was the case in season 1, and I was over it in season 1, but it feels like Wolverine is somehow stuck in the mindset that he's in some sort of love triangle, that he has a chance with Jean, where from Jean and Scott's perspective, they are just so far down the road from that. They're fully married with kind of technically a son. Like, But the fact that Morph can turn into Jean and that works to calm Logan down to kind of get through to him for a moment perfectly exemplifies why I dislike this version of Wolverine.
Yeah, I get that, but the Wolverine in '97 was always in love with Jean. I think as the story went on, you know, she's married to Cyclops and stuff like that. And Cyclops cheated on her and all that stuff. But in '97, it was just they weren't really discussing marriage because it was a kids cartoon, right? So I think the teams are a bit more mature now because the audience for '97 is a bit older. And I think kids nowadays who even watch '97 can understand these concepts, you know? So it's different.
I mean, that's what he cares about. Someone else's wife and having adamantium. That's what drives him. Is this what Wolverine is supposed to be? Because that's terrible. That's pathetic. All that said, Wolverine coming back was pretty cool. They recreated the iconic comic cover, and this heroic return followed by a fight with Omega Red was pretty cool. It was pretty well animated, pretty good fight. Still, as they fly away, I just couldn't help but feel cheated. Like, I was teased a Wolverine-focused episode, which is desperately needed, only for them to mostly use him as a horror monster, only to focus on Morph, a character who
I think his perspective's kind of wrong. I think it was a more focused episode, knowing that Wolverine will never love Morph.
is mostly just a cameo machine and has no connection to the Weapon X program or any of the characters on display except for Wolverine himself, and they're split up for most of the episode. I don't know, man, maybe it's just me, but I thought this show's Wolverine really could have used some development and some focus and some extra dimensions beyond just caring for Jean Grey, and this simply is not it. This might just be my least favorite episode of X-Men '97, but as competent as this show is, it's
I wouldn't say it's my least favorite episode. I probably think it's the third episode. I mean, it started off kind of lukewarm. I didn't like the Jubilee episode, like the present episode. The future episode was fine. The Apocalypse episode was really good. Um, but that's kind of it.
most certainly not a bad episode. I'd give it a 6 out of 10, which is just kind of decent. I'm certain the rest of the season will pick this right back up, and I'm looking forward to it, but I think X-Men '97 might simply always have this one weak spot. It's basically a 100% pitch-perfect adaptation of the X-Men, with the exception of the Wolverine, the most popular.
No, I think the movies changed Wolverine as the leader. Wolverine was never really the leader. It was like always Cyclops, and he was like the balance to Cyclops. Yeah, let's get some more into it.
I think X-Men '97
What's that? Wolverine never deserves someone like Morph. Oh, let's get into this one.
Here, Tomo.
What's up with this Tomo stuff?
Tomo is a magical shape-shifting fox from Japanese legend. A loyal sidekick to a heroic samurai. There was nothing Tomo wouldn't do. No one he wouldn't become to help the samurai on his adventures. Unfortunately, it did not work out well for Tomo.
Okay, so post-credit scene
Yeah, that was deep. That was deep.
last week was actually the setup for a detour. It was a setup for a side quest that we were essentially going to be going on this week.
Yeah, listen to this guy and subscribe. Belder Caliber. I'm not sure, but he did a good review. Subscribe to him. He's really good.
In regards to Wolverine getting his adamantium claws back. And I wasn't really sure how I was going to feel about it going in because we've just come off of, in my opinion, a really, really good mid-season arc where we set up the future version of Apocalypse coming back to the main timeline to muck things up. And then we've also set up the origin of Apocalypse, which is going to lead to the clashes he ends up having with the X-Men in the future. And I was like, yo, do we want to take a break from this momentum? I'm appreciative of the break because, in all honesty, it allows us to explore a relationship that we got in the beginning of season one, or should I say, it's maybe around the midpoint of season one with this show in regards to Morph and Wolverine. And I like that the person that kind of is our narrative storyteller for this relationship is Lady Deathstrike, because she's had a relationship with Wolverine in the past where she refers to Morph as Tomo, which is basically a fox that follows around a samurai, and then the fox ends up sacrificing itself for the samurai. But as the fox is dying, the fox realizes that both him and the samurai are far too different. The samurai would never turn around and look at the fox and give the fox the love and appreciation that it receives. And I was like, yo, hold on now. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. We're telling stories here, because I feel as though every single person can relate to Morph. At some point in time in your life, you fell into love with somebody that you probably shouldn't have, or you fell in love with somebody where you were putting out 80% of the effort and they were only putting in 20% of the effort, or you fell in love with somebody that abused your good intentions, or you fell in love with somebody that used you to basically get something done or to handle a situation. But when it was time for them to turn around and reciprocate either those feelings or that action, you didn't get that in any way, shape, or form. And going on this journey with Morph, where in the beginning he kind of like locks in and he's like, hell yeah, I'm gonna help Wolverine because, I've got this crush on Wolverine and Wolverine's my boy. And they end up arriving at the Weapon X facility. First off, when I saw the team for the Weapon X mission, I started laughing my ass off. All of these people hate each other. None of them are friends with each other. However, there is a agreement between all of them, which is we may hate each other, we may try to kill each other. Sabretooth, every time it's Wolverine's birthday, you may go out of your way to try and kill all of his loved ones. But we all are in agreement. We fucking hate Weapon X. So if Weapon X comes back, or if one of y'all even get a hint that Weapon X is around, we team up and
Yeah, sorry
unify
for the
like
cursing,
Voltron
but
to get their
this
asses.
one's not for kids. But I think he's making a good point. I like the episode actually. It's a nice little detour. I know the apocalypse thing's gonna get more intense as we go on, but I think it's a good
Up
little
out of here.
detour.
I absolutely loved that is the composition of the team. All former people that were just gruesomely experimented on by Weapon X, putting aside their grudges with each other to go and wipe out this organization that they all mutually despise. But in the beginning of the mission, you see that Morph is just like happy to be there. He's happy to once again be with Logan. He's happy to help Logan. And on some level that Logan is lying, and Morph doesn't know this. Morph is just basically the person who's not going to ask as many questions because Logan is the one who asked them. Because if Logan went to Scott, or if he went to Jean, or if he went to Storm, or if he went to Forge and asked any of them to help him with this mission, they would have questions. Scott would be like, "Why are we going there? What's the primary objective? Who's going to be on our team? No, we're not working with those people because they've attempted to kill us multiple times, so I cannot trust them to have our back. We're going to have to bring in more of the X-Men." And those questions start to become uncomfortable for Wolverine because he can't admit, hey, I'm going on a mission to where they basically experimented on me with a bunch of other killers, and I'm probably going to get half of them killed because I'm going to lie to them. And I'm going to end up getting my claws back so that I can feel as though I'm useful to the team again. Scott's going to be like, bro, like your healing factor is no longer restrained by your adamantium in your body. Like you're effective to the team. You just want to feel like the dangerous weapon you've always felt like for the last 30 years since the adamantium was grafted onto your bones.
Yeah, I think Wolverine just didn't want to do the beast form of Wolverine. I don't know. I don't know why. Well, I mean, having bones come out of your hands kind of weird. I don't know if he wants that, and then also, I think he knows of his feral state. So I think that made sense. But I'm surprised his feral state came on so fast, right? I guess that adamantium makes him a bit more human.
He doesn't want to answer all those questions. So he goes to Morph because he knows that he can use Morph's love to basically get a member of his team that he can rely on to watch his back amongst all of these other killers. And I love that Lady Deathstrike is the one that clocks it. Lady Deathstrike's like, oh, you're in love with him, but it ain't gonna work. Like you're gonna sacrifice pieces of yourself. You're gonna throw yourself in into the flames. You're gonna try and help him up the mountain. And then when it comes time for him to turn around and reciprocate that, you're gonna realize he is incapable of reciprocating it because he does not feel the same way about you that you feel about him. And it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with how he views himself. And Morph's like, nah, that's not it at all. And they go through the mission and they're dealing with the with the brood, and they make it all the way to the end. And then Morph realizes, oh, wait a minute, Logan lied when he said that he was going to the engine room, and we were no, when he said he was going to the vehicle bay.
Yeah, that was a good episode finding out that Wolverine lied, right? Like going back and forth with that. That was pretty that was pretty intense.
To get vehicles to get us out of here, he was actually going to go and get the adamantium so that he can get the adamantium put back onto his body. He got that guy killed. And he sent me on a bullshit mission with these other two killers. And when they're inside of the final complex where they're fighting to try and knock Logan into the machine to get the adamantium grafted back onto his body, like Morph tries to reason
Yeah, this moment was painful.
with him. And he tries to reason with him as himself. And what ends up causing Logan to basically get some level of control back for a second is Morph turning into Gene. Not himself. He has to turn into Gene in order to get that done. And how does that make you feel when you have to turn into somebody completely different in order for somebody that you love and somebody that you care for to basically acknowledge you or acknowledge the situation that's going on around them? And they get the adamantium grafted back onto his body. And I love the conversation that essentially happens on the ship, like when they're leaving, because it's Morph trying one more time to reach out to Logan to be like, hey, like, I mean, you lied, but like, I still I still care about you. And it's Logan just completely shutting that all down. But I love the look that he gives Morph because it's not a look of I'm shutting this down because I don't care about you. It's a look of I'm shutting this down because I don't know how to be the person that you want me.
But for me, I like that Morph is back. I mean, in X-Men, the original X-Men, he didn't get a lot of screen time. I think the first episode he got taken, and then we didn't see him till like episode 6 or 8. And he wasn't Morph. He was like getting insane. And it took like couple. He was like sabotaging the team, and it took like couple episodes to get him back. So I like actually seeing Morph like who he really is, right? And I don't think X-Men, the original X-Men in 97, we didn't really get to see Morph as he actually is.
To be like he shuts that door so that Morph can in his mind move on and find somebody else to basically give his love and his attention to, because Wolverine knows the type of person that he is, and that the type of person that he is somebody that doesn't deserve somebody like Morph. And I was like, yo, did we take a detour from the main story in regards to Apocalypse and in regards to the entire situation that has occurred? Absolutely. But did I enjoy this? Because I feel as though a lot of people are going to be able to have a lot of parallels with Morph and understand where Morph is coming from, because in your life, especially when you get older, you'll probably be in those situations or those relationships where it's a toxic relationship where you're putting more effort into the relationship than the other person. I was like, hell yeah. I feel as though everybody in that moment can relate to Morph and relate to what's going on with Morph and Wolverine's relationship. But I also love the fact that as they're leaving, Morph ends up creating like a completely new friend for himself in the form of Lady Deathstrike. Now, for the Brood, I don't know whether or not they're coming back. I damn near wanted to call them the Hive, and that's only because I've been playing Halo. It was interesting seeing their characters. I probably drop another video about whether or not they actually are going to come back because I don't think that they are. It feels as though they were just a one-off that existed for um just this side story involving Wolverine getting his adamantium back. But I feel as though the real story of this episode really was the relationship between Wolverine and Morph and how Wolverine views himself and how the way Wolverine views himself prevents him from being able to get into quite literally a positive relationship, and why he's constantly cycling the drain of like these toxic relationships that he ends up having with all of these different characters throughout the entirety of Marvel, because Wolverine is a giant slut. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about like this whole relationship between Wolverine and Morph,
Legit?
whether or not you like being able to get into quite literally a positive relationship, and why he's constantly cycling the drain of like these toxic relationships that he ends up having with all of these different characters throughout the entirety of Marvel, because Wolverine is a giant slut. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about like
Wolverine?
this whole
I don't know
relationship.
if Wolverine's relationships. It would have been nice for him and Rogue, but I think Rogue and Gambit's pretty cool.
Here, Tomo.
What's up?
I think that's true. We could look at this episode because I think that's where we're going next.
Get away from him!
Now, Professor, lie to him as you have so often lied to me.
Charles, I'm sorry.
Hey man, look,
You
shout
did that
out,
again. Okay, give him
legitimate
a
shout
shout out.
out to
Give him a
X-Men 97, because I thought, a couple episodes ago when we were in the future part of this entire story arc, I thought that Storm reaching out like the Black Queen that she is and calling the flames of the sun and realizing that, oh, there's levels to my power and I haven't even tapped into that yet, was absolutely insane. Seeing Magneto stare a black hole in the face and was like, oh, I can contain this with magnetism and hold that
Makes
thing
sense.
in check just for even a little while to spare the greater parts of the city from being absolutely fucking annihilated was some of the
Magneto is
dopest
good.
shit I have ever seen. One of my easily
Man, this
one of
guy's
my
right on
favorite
stuff.
Magneto scenes ever. And I think the Magneto scene that sticks in my head the most from when I
Good
was a kid,
analysis too.
funnily enough, is from X-Men 3 when he rips the bridge, the Los Angeles bridge like off its hinges and then flies it to Alcatraz and then
Nah,
drops it between Alcatraz and the land. I
no, I didn't really like that one. I like my favorite Magneto moment was Days of Future Past when he like coated the Sentinels with metal. Then he was controlling the Sentinels. He ripped the stadium. He ripped the stadium in like Washington. I think they were in Washington. He ripped like a stadium, lifted up, created like an enclosement around the White House. Yeah, man, that was my favorite Magneto.
I remember that scene
Even there's Apocalypse. He was strong too in Apocalypse actually. In the
that he did
Apocalypse with
stuck
Jean
with
Grey,
me.
he was when he was like and I think X-Men 97 did it too, where he magnetized the world, like he was pulling the world apart, the poles of the world, the magnetic poles apart, and like you had geological storms. Yeah, it was crazy.
Only because of the reaction of like the president and all the other people watching it and then them showing it on the monitor for you to realize the sheer scale of the feat that he had just accomplished. It's one of the reasons why Magneto is like he might be a villain and I don't agree with him a lot of the times, but he is up there as one of my favorite X-Men characters. But looking at the relationship between Magneto and Charles, is such a toxic, self-destructive relationship on both accounts. Because what you have is Magneto wants to be Charles's Machiavellian. He wants to be the guy that takes on all of the sins and does all of the hard work, such as wiping out the enemies of the mutants and doing the most like heinous of the crimes that they need to accomplish in order to create this shining utopia that Charles wishes to create inside of his mind, right? Or the shining utopia that he wants to create for all mutants to basically be able to live in, away from the threat of humanity. Like Magneto is like, I have to be the one that takes on the extremes of this in order to achieve like Charles's greater vision and his greater destiny. But the problem is Magneto's past, especially as a Holocaust survivor, jades his worldview because he feels as though he's seen it before. And for the most part, he's typically right. He is typically right that the hatred that humanity has for mutants will only lead to the destruction of the mutant kind if there's a person that comes along that takes that power and just runs with it. And we've seen that version of the future in regards to the Days of Future Past timeline, where the Sentinels are just running around wiping out anybody with a hint of an X gene. But on the complete opposite side of that, you have Charles Xavier, who basically wants his.
But a thesis for Magneto and I think Stanley said it too. The thesis is that Magneto is Malcolm X and Charles Xavier, Professor X. He is oh, you see that reverse. They call him Professor X. Well, Magneto is really Malcolm X. And then Charles should be Martin Luther King, right? So just the ideologies. One was preaching integration, the other was saying segregation, right?
his friend back. Like he wants the man that he originally built all of this with to come back over to his side, or at least see things the way in which he does, which is he sees that there is a better path, a chance for humanity and mutants to basically live and coexist side by side together. Mostly because Charles has never had the he's never had to live through the worst vices of humanity. So as a direct result, his outlook is not as broken as Magneto's.
Yeah,
But because
plus Charles grew up rich, right? Very privileged. He has like an inheritance, like he built the mansion based on his inheritance and all that stuff, right? So
he continues to basically entertain the hope that Eric will basically turn around and start walking his path, he gives Eric way too many chances to basically do some of the most heinous shit on the face of the planet. Like when he initially comes back and Eric is essentially having this gigantic fucking crashing out and he's about to just drop asteroid M into Earth. I said it before in my other video. That's the point in time where you shut his brain off. You got to shut him down. You have to realize that at some point in time, this person that you love, this person that you want to put your faith in, this person that you want to believe in, is way too far gone. And that's exactly what happened in this timeline. What you saw is two different forms of hubris running in parallel at the exact same time, leading directly to the creation of Apocalypse, where Magneto is.
but I think Apocalypse creation was just an inevitable event. Happens across all timelines, across all multiverses. I mean, the Celestials even helped him, so I think Apocalypse was inevitable.
Like, oh, we can mold him and we can shape him into being like this X-Man who's going to do the heavy lifting for Charles's future. Magneto wants to shape Apocalypse into a weapon that's going to carve away at all the injustices and strife that mutants are going to have to face in the future. And he's willing to manipulate and lie to Apocalypse in order to accomplish it. Then on the complete opposite side, you have Professor X, who wants to basically obfuscate the truth. He doesn't want to tell Apocalypse the entire truth because he's also trying to lie to Apocalypse to get him to basically walk this other path that Eric has essentially sold him on, that everybody else is telling him is an absolutely horrible fucking idea. And you basically just watch this dance, and it's a dance around fire, and both of them are getting closer and closer to said fire. And when he walks into that throne room and he looks around and he realizes that, oh, y'all motherfuckers been lying to me. Like at first, he was like, oh, Magneto's just lying to me. Then when he walks into the throne room and he looks around, he's like, oh, the bald one was lying to me too. Oh, y'all lying to me. This joint was supposed to be my destiny, and y'all been trying to keep me from this. Instantaneously, I knew, oh, y'all lost him. Second, I saw the mural on the wall where Magneto was on one side, Charles was on the other, and Apocalypse was ascending. I was like, he is going to look around and figure all of this out really, really quick. And when he figures it out really, really quick, any hope you had of containing this man is going to go out the fucking window. And that is exactly what happens. What happens is he looks around, he realizes, oh, y'all have been lying to me this entire time. Like, y'all were trying to keep me from my destiny. A destiny that if I had gotten it earlier, I'd have probably been able to save my adopted father and all the people that relied on me. Because Bishop literally was the only one talking sense, which was when Bishop showed up, he had the time bands. He was like, put the time bands on and we're going to go home. If they had left when Bishop had initially found them, Apocalypse would have just kept rocking with his people, kept rocking with his dad, and who knows what he would have become because he would have never been directed towards that temple. And even Kang Loki kind of hints to that, where Kang is like, there's a possibility that he doesn't become Apocalypse, that he stays Ibn Nasur, Ibn Sarnor. I'm messing up his name. I'm sorry, it's really early in the morning. But there's a possibility that he remains normal. And it really does, come down to you. But Kang's letting them know if y'all had just left, got up out of here, I would have found the ship. Now, who knows what I would have done with the ship?
And it's two evils. What you want to create Apocalypse or Kang, right? I mean, well, I think Apocalypse is inevitable.
But I wouldn't have done something with the ship in Egypt. Like I'd have probably kept it moving and taken it to some like other part of the of the timeline and mucked up things there. But them staying, them playing these head games with him, them lying to him, betraying him, leading to the destruction of his people, the death of his father, all of that was just boiling rage, just seething right underneath his skin. And then the final insult is walking into that room, looking around and realizing that both of these frauds have basically been lying to you and trying to manipulate you the entire time to get you away from your destiny, which leads to the gigantic crash out, him wiping out half of the city, him killing Magneto and then striding off into the desert as the villain that we essentially know. I love it. I love it. But at the exact same time, we have to acknowledge that both Professor X and Magneto have a super toxic relationship. Both of them feed into each other's BS.
And
And
the
everybody else
relationship.
suffers because of that. But let me know what you guys think.
That's
Comment down
deep.
below. I'll catch you in the next
Let's
video.
see what the comments think. That's deep. Yeah, that was a good line. Oh, Mother Son is also Dream. Yeah, she put them in the timeline too. That's true. That's fair. But I think it was just yeah, this guy's right. I look at Apocalypse as a universe constant. He'll always be there. And the story gives them space to grow from these flaws. Yeah, I think it's good. That's it on my side, guys.